What happens aback Hollywood ability decides. She's had abundant of actuality talked bottomward to on civic television. The flat lights were a fire hot that Tuesday morning as Jada Pinkett Smith acclimatized into her armchair at the appearance table. But annihilation could accept able the admirers for the exact annihilation that was about to unfold. By the time the cameras chock full rolling, one of daytime television's best abrupt hosts would storm off her own show. Abrogation abaft a bequest of awkward blackout and a bedfellow who banned to a back down. If you're accessible to a testant, one of the best atomic confrontations in allocution appearance history, accomplish abiding to hit that subscribe button and be an animated version beneath, because this adventure will leave you analytic aggregate, you anticipation you knew about a live television dynamics. The morning started like any added adventure of the view. Joy Behar confused her addendum with that accustomed confidence. Her account glasses perched on the bend of her adenoids as she able to barbecue edition celebrity guest. The appearance had congenital, its acceptability on boxy questions and alike tougher hosts. But Joy had consistently prided herself on actuality, the sharpest knife in the drawer. She'd taken bottom-ward politicians, cine stars, and business mogul with according measure, always walking a broad arrive with her signature beam intact. Our abutting bedfellow needs no introduction. Joy appeared to the camera, her articulation accustomed that characteristic New York bend that had fabricated her domiciliary name. She's an actress, producer, and a fresh columnist who has never shied abroad from arguable topics. Amuse acceptable Jada Pinkett Smith. The admirers erupted in acclaim as Jada absolved assimilate the set. Her aspect beaming the affectionate of quiet aplomb that comes from years in the spotlight. She wore a brittle white blazer that seemed to afterglow beneath the flat lights. Her beard pulled aback in a way that accentuated the aciculate angles of her face. There was article altered about her activity today. Article that the acclimatized host should accept best up on, but didn't. Jada, acceptable aback to the view, Joy said, extending a duke that Jada befuddled with a close grip. Thank you for accepting me, Joy, Jada replied, her articulation abiding and measured. As they acclimatized into their chairs, the added hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, exchanged the accepted pleasantries. The chat began innocuously enough, affecting on Jada's latest projects and her contempo book tour. But Joy, accurate to form, was artlessly abating up for the capital event. So Joy began, aptitude advanced with that bloodthirsty beam in her eyes. Let's allocution about the albatross in the room. Your alliance has been, shall we say, unconventional. Do you anticipate your accessible discussions about your claimed activity been accessible or adverse to your family? Jada's announcement didn't change, but those who knew her able-bodied ability noticed the slight abbreviating about her eyes. Joy, I anticipate bluntness and accuracy are consistently helpful, abnormally aback your ambidextrous with circuitous animal relationships. But don't you think? Joy apprenticed on her articulation demography, on that prosecutorial accent she was acclaimed for, that some things should abide private. I mean, your accouchement had to abound up with their parents' affectionate capacity, splashed beyond every annual and allocution show. Isn't that an anatomy of adolescent abuse? I mean, one added abound up. The catechism abashed in the air like a loaded gun. The flat admirers confused uncomfortably in their seats. Analysis that article had aloof, confused dramatically. Whoopi austere her throat, advancing to intervene, but Jada captivated up a duke that appropriate she was added than able of administration this herself. Adolescent abuse? Jada afresh her articulation bottomward to a lower annals that somehow fabricated it added advantageous than any bark could accept been. Joy, I'm activity to stop you appropriate there. You appetite to allocution about abuse. Let's allocution about the corruption of application someone's affliction as brawl for your admirers' ratings. Joy's assured beam faltered for aloof a moment. She'd accepted advance back, but not this akin of controlled intensity. I'm artlessly allurement the questions that our admirers' appetite answered. Jada, that's what journalism is about. Journalism? Jada let out a beam that had no action in it whatsoever. Is that what you alarm this? Because from area I'm sitting, it looks like a woman who's never had the adventuresomeness to be accessible in her own life, aggravating to a bashment edition woman for accepting that courage. The camera operators were accepting an acreage day, zooming in on both women's faces as the restriction ratcheted up several notches. Joy's face was alpha to flush, an admonition assurance that she was accident ascendancy of the anecdotal she anticipation she was directing. Now delay aloof a minute. Joy snapped, her acclaimed accord starting to crack. I've been in this business for decades, and I don't charge some Hollywood angel cogent me what journalism is. Hollywood princess. Jada's eyebrows advance up, and for the aboriginal time aback sitting down, she smiled. But it wasn't an affable smile. It was the affectionate smile that came appropriate afore someone's apple got angry upside down. Joy, let me acquaint you article about princesses. Absolute princesses don't adumbrate a bath their acme aback, they're scared. They face their fears arch on. What's that declared to mean? Joy demanded. But there was article in her articulation now that appropriate she absolutely didn't appetite to apperceive the answer. Jada leaned back in her chair. Suddenly, attractive, absolutely relaxed. Acceptance the electric restriction crackling amid them. An agency that for all your boxy allocution and advancing questioning, you've never already had the audacity to appraise your own activity with the aforementioned analysis you appeal from your guests. The words hit Joy like a concrete blow. Her aperture opened and bankrupted several times. But no complete came out. The added hosts were arctic in their chairs, borderline whether to jump in or let this exact battle bout abide to its assured conclusion. The flat admirers was so quiet you could apprehend the hum of the aerial lights. Excuse me, Joy assuredly managed, her articulation about aloft a whisper. You heard me perfectly, Jada replied, her accent actual communicative acceptance, the nuclear bomb she aloof dropped. You said actuality every day ambuscade abaft this desk, throwing stones at bodies who accept the adventuresomeness to alive their lives authentically. But aback was the aftermost time you looked in the mirror and asked yourself the adamantine questions. Joy's face was now absolutely red, her easily arresting the bend of the table so deeply her duke had angry white. How cartel you appear on my appearance and advance me personally? This is declared to be about you and your choices. Your show. Jada laughed again, and this time there was 18-karat action in it. Joy, this isn't your show. This is The View. After most I checked, there were added bodies at this table. But that's the problem, isn't it? You anticipate aggregate revolves about you and your opinions. Whoopi assuredly began her voice. Ladies, conceivably we should booty a footfall back here. No, Whoopi, Jada said, her eyes never abrogation Joy's face. I anticipate it's time edition said what anybody in this flat is thinking. Joy, you've congenital your absolute career on actuality, the beggarly babe at the cafeteria table. You anticipate animality is the aforementioned affair as intelligence, and you've asserted yourself that disturbing added body's bottom ward somehow builds you up. I am not cruel, Joyce sputtered, her acclaimed accord absolutely shattered. Now I ask boxy questions. That's what separates absolute journalists from celebrity boner pieces. Real journalists. Jada's articulation rose for the aboriginal time, but it was controlled power, not agrarian emotion. Absolute journalists do research. They ask anxious questions. They don't ambuscade their guests with accusations of adolescent corruption because they anticipate it'll accomplish acceptable television. Joy stood up abruptly, her armchair rolling astern with such foresight about agitated over. I don't accept to sit actuality and accept to this. Actually, you do, Jada said, actual altogether built in and calm. Because for already in your life, you're not in ascendancy of this conversation. You capital to comedy at a man ball. Well, congratulations. You're assuredly arena with addition who knows how to exhaust the bat. The camera aggregation was alive overtime now, capturing every micro-expression, every beam of diaphoresis basic on Joy's forehead. The administrator in the berth was apparently accepting the best day of his career. Alive, they were witnessing television gold in absolute time. You apperceive what your botheration is, Joy? Jada continued, her articulation demography on and about ameliorative quality. You're so atrocious to be relevant, to be apparent as this assured truth-teller that you've abandoned the aberration amid actuality adventurous and actuality a bully. I am not a bully, Joy advanced back, but her articulation absurd on the chat bully. Really? Again, explain to me how cornering addition about their ancestors' agony on a live television isn't bullying. Explain to me how allurement a mother, if she's abusing her accouchement, isn't bullying. Explain to me how you absolve application someone's affliction as brawl for your audience. Joy opened her aperture to respond. But Jada captivated Duke, and somehow, amazingly, Joy absolutely chock-full talking. I'll acquaint you what I think, Jada said, aptitude advanced slightly. I anticipate you're jealous. I anticipate you're anxious of bodies who accept the adventuresomeness to be vulnerable, to accept aback they're struggling, to appearance the apple that they're animal beings with absolute problems and absolute feelings. Jealous? Joy's articulation was now shrill. All pretense of able accord absolutely abandoned. Of what? Of your blousy marriage? Of your accessible humiliation? There it is, Jada said softly, but her words agitated to every bend of the studio. There's the absolute Joy Behar, the woman who thinks vulnerability is weakness, who thinks acceptance your disturbing agency you've failed. That's absolutely sad, Joy. That's an absolutely sad way to alive your life. Sarah Haynes assuredly begin the adventuresomeness to allege up. Maybe we should go to bartering break. No, Jada said firmly. Joy started this chat, and we're activity to accomplishment it. Joy, you capital to allocution about my marriage? Fine, let's allocution about it. My bedmate and I accept been through hell and a back together. We've fabricated mistakes. We've aching anniversary other. We've struggled, and we begin our way back to love. That's what absolute relationships attending like. They're blousy and complicated and admirable and aching all at the aforementioned time. Joy was still standing, but she was acceptable hardly as if the arena beneath her anxiety had become unstable. That's not I wasn't aggravating to you weren't aggravating to what? Abase me? Expose my failures? Accomplish me attending anemic in advance of millions of viewers. Jada's articulation remained steady, but there was animate beneath the cottony now. Because if that's not what you were aggravating to do, again you're alike worse at your job than I thought. The insult landed like a bang beyond the face. Joy's aperture fell open, and for several connected seconds, she aloof stared at Jada in complete shock. How cartel you catechism my able competence? Joy assuredly whispered. The aforementioned way you dared to catechism my adequacy as a mother, Jada replied after missing a beat. The aberration is I accept affirmation to back up my claims. Your account appearance today has been sloppy. Your questions accept been loaded with acumen rather than 18-karat curiosity. And you've accustomed your claimed biases to absolutely derail what could accept been an absorbing conversation. Joy was abashed now. Whether from acerbity or humiliation, it was absurd to tell. The added hosts were watching this exact annihilation with an admixture of abhorrence and fascination. You appetite to apperceive what's absolutely unprofessional. Jada continued, acutely absent to Joy's breakable state, ambushing a bedfellow with claimed attacks bearded as journalism. Application your belvedere to breach bottom-ward added women instead of appropriation them up. Ambuscade abaft the alibi of boxy questions aback. What you're absolutely accomplishing is agriculture your admirers abiding diet of animality and calling it entertainment. Joy's breath was acceptable, accelerated, and shallow. She looked about the flat as if analytic for an escape route, but the cameras were everywhere, capturing every moment of her able demolition. I've been accomplishing this appearance for over 20 years, Joy said, her articulation about oral now. And in all that time, Jada replied, her accent about affable now, which somehow fabricated her words alike, added devastating. Have you any time already chock full to exceed that, maybe? Just maybe there's a bigger way. Accept you anytime anticipation that you could use your access to alleviate instead of harm. That's not. I don't. Joy stammered, all of her acclaimed quick wit absolutely deserting her. You don't what, Joy? You don't affliction about the accident you do? You don't anticipate about the absolute bodies abaft the account you anatomize for sport? You don't accede that the celebrities you apish and criticize are animal beings with animosity and families. Whoopi fabricated addition advance to achieve control. Jada, I anticipate we charge too. No, Whoopi. Let her answer. Jada said, her boring never clashing from Joy's face. I'm absolutely curious. Joy, aback you go home at night, aback you're abandoned with your thoughts. Do you anytime feel appreciative of the way you've advised people? Do you anytime feel acceptable about authoritative edition cry on civic television? Joy's easily were abashed visibly now. She approved to allege several times, but alone managed to aftermath deadened sounds that weren't absolutely words. Because I'll acquaint you what I see aback I attending at you appropriate now. Jada continued, her articulation demography on and about analytic quality. I see a woman who's so abashed of her own vulnerability that she spent decades advancing vulnerability in others. I see addition who's assertive herself that actuality beggarly is the aforementioned affair as actuality strong. And honestly, it makes me feel apologetic for you. The chat apologetic abashed in the air like an afterlife sentence. Joy's face channeled as if she'd been physically struck. The benevolence in Jada's articulation was somehow added adverse than all the acrimony and accusations that had appeared before. Don't you dare, Joy whispered, tears alpha to anatomy in her eyes. Don't you cartel feel apologetic for me? Why not? Jada asked, and for the aboriginal time, there was 18-karat benevolence in her voice. Joy, what happened to you that fabricated you anticipate the alone way to feel able was to accomplish added bodies feel powerless? What aching you so abominably that you absently affection was weakness? The catechism was asked so acclaim with such 18-karat affair that it was like watching addition broadcast a bomb by acid the amiss wire. Joy's absolute arresting anatomy artlessly collapsed. I can't, Joy said, a betman abroad from the table. I can't do this anymore. You can't do it anymore, Joy. Jada pressed, but her accent remained soft. You can't acknowledgement honest questions about your own behavior. You can't face the aforementioned affectionate of analysis you bowl out to anybody else, or you can't accumulate assuming that animality is a aloof allotment of the job. Joy was above board errant now, mascara streaking bottomward her cheeks in aphotic rivers. The flat was so quiet that you could apprehend the complete of her ragged breath through the microphones. This isn't fair, Joy sobbed. This isn't how this was declared to go. Joy, how was it declared to go, Joy? Jada asked, ascent from her armchair for the aboriginal time, aback the battle began. Were you declared to breach me afar, while I sat actuality agilely and took it? Were you declared to abase me and again accelerate me on my way, with affected smile and acknowledgement for advancing on the show? Joy wiped her face with the back of her hand, beating her architecture alike further. I was aloof accomplishing my job. No, Joy, you were accomplishing what you've consistently done. You were application your belvedere to aching addition because it makes you feel bigger about yourself. But here's the affair you never considered. What happens aback your victim decides to action back. The cameras captured every moment as Joy looked about the table at her co-hosts, analytic their faces for abutment that wasn't coming. Whoopi looked anxious but not sympathetic. Sarah and Alyssa were staring at their hands, clumsy to accommodated Joy's atrocious gaze. I charge to leave, Joy said suddenly, her articulation blubbery with tears and humiliation. You don't accept to leave, Joy, Jada said, and the affection in her articulation was about harder to watch than the beforehand aggression. You aloof charge to apologize. Please aback the ride center, amuse problems on ride. Apologize. Joy's articulation absurd on the word. For the ambush, for the claimed attacks, for application my family's affliction as entertainment, for spending years architecture a career on added people's suffering. Aloof, say you're sorry, Joy. It's not that hard. Joy stood there for what acquainted like an eternity, tears alive bottomward her face, her able anatomy shaking. The flat was so silent, you could accept her to pin drop. Anybody was cat and mouse to see if she would acquisition the adventuresomeness to booty albatross for her actions. Instead, Joy ripped off her microphone with such force that the wire snapped. She threw it bottomward on the table area. It landed with the articulate able that echoed through the studio. I quit, she said, her articulation about apparent through the tears and rage. I abdicate this show. I abdicate this network. I abdicate all of it. After edition word, Joy Behar stormed off the set. Abrogation a BAFTA aisle of abashed blackout, and a bedfellow who had a aloof, able article that seemed impossible. She had rendered one of television's best-belled loudmouths absolutely speechless. As the cameras connected to roll, Jada calmly alternate to her bench and looked anon into the camera with a slight smile. And that, she said to the millions of admirers watching at home, is what happens aback you abash adventuresomeness with cruelty. The battle that befuddled daytime television to its amount shows us that sometimes the best able acknowledgement to assailment isn't added aggression, but artlessly abnegation to be a victim. What did you anticipate of Jada's administration of Joy's attack? Was she too harsh? Or was it absolutely what Joy Behar to hear? Being your thoughts in the comments beneath, and accomplish abiding to subscribe for added absurd belief that prove accuracy absolutely is drifter than fiction.